My friends, tonight we gather to talk about a pain that cuts deeper than any wound, a heart that loves, hopes, and prays, only to hear heaven whisper no. Maybe you're here tonight, your soul aching, tears staining your pillow, asking, why? Why would God deny me the love I thought was meant to be? Let me tell you this, God's no is never a punishment, it's a proclamation. A proclamation that He sees what you cannot see, that He knows the roads you've yet to walk, the storms you've yet to weather, and the purpose He's carved into your very bones. When God closes a door, it's not to leave you in the dark, it's to lead you into a light so radiant, so divine, your human heart could scarcely imagine it. Think of David, a shepherd boy, anointed king. Yet for years, he ran from caves, hunted by Saul. God said no to his safety, no to his comfort, no to an easy path. Why? To forge a king, to shape a man after God's own heart. Beloved, when God says no to a relationship, He isn't robbing you of love. He's preparing you for a love that aligns with His glory. Maybe that no feels like a canyon in your chest, but I urge you, trust Him. Trust the hands that carved mountains, that parted seas, that hung the stars. His no today is a yes to tomorrow's miracle. His no is a compass steering you away from shipwreck and toward shores of grace. So tonight, if your heart is heavy, lift your eyes. The God who numbers the hairs on your head, who bottles every tear, who sacrificed His Son for you, He hasn't forgotten you. His no is a love letter, written in divine ink saying, wait, child, I have something better. Will you believe Him? Will you dare to hope again? The best is yet to come. There are moments in life when your heart beats so loudly for something, someone, that you can't imagine breathing without them. You pray, you fast, you beg heaven to let this love bloom. But then, silence or worse, a quiet, firm no, and in that moment the world caves in, dreams shatter, questions roar like a hurricane. God, why would you let me love so deeply, only to take it away? Let me speak to your heart tonight. When God says no to a relationship you desperately wanted, it is not because He is cruel. It is not because He enjoys watching you ache. It is because He loves you too much to let you settle for less than His best. You see, friends, we are finite. We see only today, the flicker of a moment, but God sees eternity. He sees the winding roads ahead, the cliffs hidden by fog, the storms you cannot yet fathom. And sometimes what feels like a loss to you is actually His mercy, His mighty hand pulling you back from a path that would have broken you. Think of a child pleading for a knife, convinced it's a toy. A loving parent says no, and not to punish, but to protect. The child cries, stomps, rages at the injustice, but the parent's no is the purest act of love. Beloved, we are that child. We beg for relationships, for loves that glitter like gold but could cut a soul deep. And God, in His infinite wisdom, says no, because He sees the blade beneath the shine. He sees the wounds we'd carry, the chains we'd wear, the faith we'd compromise. Oh, but how hard it is to trust Him when our hearts are raw. I'll tell you a story. There was a young man once, passionate, eager, ready to give his life for Christ. He met a woman who seemed perfect. She was kind, bold, beautiful. They dreamed together, prayed together, and he knew this was God's will. But doors kept slamming shut. Circumstances turned impossible. Prayers for unity were met with silence. Confused and angry, he cried out to God, "Why are you denying me the one thing I want most?" Years later, he stood in a pulpit, preaching to thousands. A calling he'd have abandoned had he chased that relationship. The woman, she married another, found her own purpose, and they both thanked God for his no. What felt like a tragedy was divine protection. What felt like a no was God shouting, "I have more for you. You may be standing in that storm right now. Your hands are empty, your future uncertain, but I need you to hear this. God's plan is greater than your pain. His purpose is bigger than your loneliness. Every tear you've cried, every sleepless night, every prayer whispered into the dark. He has collected them all, and He is working, right now, in the unseen. You may not feel it, but His hands are shaping a future so magnificent, so overflowing with His glory, that one day you'll look back and say, 'Thank God He said no.' The world will tell you to follow your heart. But the Bible says, "Trust in the Lord with all your heart, and lean not on your own understanding." Proverbs 3:5. Your heart is fragile. It's easily swayed, easily wounded, but God's heart, steady, unchanging, perfect in love. When His plan collides with your desires, it's not a battle, it's an invitation to surrender your will, your timeline, your idea of happiness, and let Him write a story for your life that will leave you breathless. Maybe you're thinking, but I loved them. I still do. I know. Oh, how I know. Love doesn't vanish overnight. But God isn't asking you to erase your feelings. He's asking you to trust Him with them, to lay that love at His feet and say, "Your will, not mine." It's the hardest prayer you'll ever pray, but it's also the most freeing, because when you release your grip, God can fill your hands with blessings you never thought possible. Remember Joseph, sold into slavery by his brothers, forgotten in prison. He must have begged God for freedom, for justice, for a way back home. But God said no, not forever, but for a time. Why? Because He was positioning Joseph to save nations, to rescue his family, to fulfill a prophecy. Joseph's pain was the pathway to his purpose, and your no, it's not the end, it's the opening scene of a miracle. Don't misunderstand. This doesn't make the ache disappear. Faith isn't a pill to numb the hurt. It's a rope to hold on to when the ground gives way. Cling to it. Cling to Him. Let your tears water the soil of your trust. And as you wait, remember, the same God who parted the Red Sea, who walked on waves, who conquered death, He's orchestrating your life. Every closed door, every detour, every no is a brushstroke in a masterpiece you can't yet see. So tonight, if your heart is heavy, I challenge you, trust Him. Trust Him when nothing makes sense. Trust Him when the world shouts, "You've lost it all." Trust Him when the enemy whispers, "God doesn't care." He cares more than you know. That relationship He said no to, it wasn't rejection. It was redirection. He's leading you away from good to give you His best. You are His child, His treasure, His masterpiece, and He will not let you wander forever. The dawn is coming. Hold on, believe, and watch Him turn your no into a testimony that shakes the heavens. There are moments in life when the pain of unanswered prayers feels like a weight too heavy to carry. You cry out to God, begging Him to change His mind, to open the door that's been firmly shut. You wrestle with the silence, with the confusion, with the aching question, "Why, Lord, if this love was so pure, so real, why would you take it away?" My friend, I need you to hear this truth tonight. God's wisdom is not like ours. His thoughts are higher, His ways are greater, and His plans are so far beyond our limited understanding that we cannot even begin to grasp them. What looks like a tragedy to us is often a divine setup for something far more beautiful than we could ever imagine. Think of a master painter standing before a blank canvas. With every stroke, every color, every layer, the painting begins to take shape. But to someone watching over his shoulder, it might look messy, even wrong. They might wonder why he chose such dark colors, why he allowed certain lines to blur. But the painter knows what he's doing. He sees the final masterpiece before it's even finished, and God, He is the greatest artist of all. He sees the end from the beginning. He knows the purpose behind every closed door, every heartbreak, every no that feels like the end of your world. You may not understand why God allowed this relationship to slip through your fingers. You may never fully know the reasons this side of heaven, but here's what I can tell you. God doesn't make mistakes. He doesn't change His mind on a whim. He doesn't withhold good things from His children unless He has something greater in store. Think about Abraham. God promised him a son, a miracle child born in his old age. For years, Abraham held on to that promise, believing against all odds. But then, when Isaac was finally born, God asked Abraham to do the unthinkable, to sacrifice the very son he had waited for. Can you imagine the agony, the confusion, the desperate prayers that must have poured from Abraham's lips? God, this doesn't make sense. You gave me this child, and now you're taking him away." But Abraham trusted. He obeyed, and at the last moment, God provided a ram in the thicket. He wasn't cruel. He was teaching Abraham and all of us a lesson in surrender. Sometimes, God allows us to walk through the fire, not to destroy us, but to prove that He is faithful. Maybe right now, you feel like Abraham on that mountain, knife in hand, heart shattered. You don't see the ram in the thicket yet. You don't see how this pain could possibly lead to anything good. But God is working. Even in the silence, even in the waiting, even in the moments when you feel like He's a million miles away. The Bible says, "For my thoughts are not your thoughts, neither are your ways my ways," declares the Lord. Isaiah 55:8. We see in fragments, we understand in part, but God, He sees the whole picture. He knows the relationships that would drain you instead of filling you. He knows the loves that would lead you away from Him instead of closer to Him. He knows the future struggles, the hidden battles, the compromises you'd make if you walked down the path you thought was right. I've seen it time and time again. People who fought against God's no, who chased relationships He clearly closed the door on, only to find themselves in heartache, in bondage, in seasons of regret. And I've seen others who surrendered, who trusted Him even when it hurt, and years later, they stood in awe of what God had done. They met a love they never saw coming. They stepped into a calling they never dreamed possible. They found a joy deeper than anything they could have planned for themselves. You have to believe this. God's no is not a rejection, it's protection. It's His way of shielding you from what you can't yet see. It's His mercy in action. You may not feel it now. You may not understand it now. But one day you will look back and see His hand in every closed door, every unanswered prayer, every tear, stained night. So tonight, if your heart is broken, if your dreams feel shattered, I challenge you. Trust His wisdom, even when it doesn't make sense. Even when the world tells you to take control, to chase what you want. God's ways are higher, His love is deeper, and His plan for you is far greater than anything you could ever design for yourself. You are not alone in this. You are not forgotten. The same God who parted the Red Sea, who brought Lazarus back from the dead, who turned the darkest Friday into the brightest Sunday, He is working in your life, right now, in this moment, in the middle of your pain. Hold on, dear heart. Keep trusting. Keep believing. The best is yet to come. There comes a moment in every life when you stand before a door you desperately wanted to walk through, only to find it locked. You rattle the handle. You knock until your knuckles bruise. You cry out, "God, open this door. I know this is what I need." But the door remains shut, and in that moment, it feels like rejection. It feels like abandonment. It feels like God isn't listening. But what if I told you that closed door is actually God's mercy in disguise? Every one of us has stood where you're standing right now. Heart raw, dreams deferred, future uncertain. We've all faced those agonizing moments when God's no crashes against our why, like waves against the shore. But here's the truth that will change everything if you let it. When God closes a door, it's not to punish you, it's to protect you. He sees what you can't see, He knows what you don't know, and His perfect love means He sometimes has to say no to good things to give you the best things. Think of a ship's captain navigating treacherous waters. From the passenger's view, the ocean might look calm and inviting, but the captain sees the hidden reefs beneath the surface, the dangers that could sink the entire ship. When he changes course abruptly, the passengers might complain. They might question his decisions, but that captain isn't being cruel. He's being wise. He's steering them away from disaster. That's what God is doing in your life right now. That relationship you thought was perfect, He saw the hidden reefs, the future you had planned out so carefully. He saw the storms ahead that would have shattered you. His no isn't rejection, it's navigation. It's divine redirection toward shores of grace you can't yet imagine. I think of Moses, raised in Pharaoh's palace, destined for power and prestige. But God closed that door dramatically. For 40 years Moses wandered the wilderness, wondering what went wrong. Why would you take me from the palace only to leave me tending sheep? But God wasn't punishing Moses. He was preparing him. Those wilderness years stripped away Pharaoh's arrogance and forged a humility that would one day stand before kings. That closed palace door led Moses to his true calling, delivering a nation. Your closed door isn't the end of your story, it's the turning point. That relationship God said no to, He's protecting you from a love that would have dimmed your light. That future you had to walk away from. He's redirecting you toward a destiny that will leave you breathless with gratitude. I've seen it too many times to doubt. The woman who nearly married the wrong man, only to discover years later how that relationship would have trapped her in misery. The man who lost his dream job, only to find his true calling in the most unexpected place. The couple who struggled with infertility for years, only to adopt a child who would change the world. Time after time, what looked like tragedy at first glance turned out to be God's perfect protection. The enemy will whisper lies in this season. God doesn't care about your happiness. You've missed your chance at love. You're being punished. Don't believe those lies for a second. The Bible says, no good thing does He withhold from those who walk uprightly. Psalm 84:11. If God is withholding something right now, it's not because He's cruel. It's because He's good. That thing you're grieving, He's got something better. That love you lost, He's preparing a love that won't require you to compromise your soul. Right now in your waiting, God is working. He's aligning circumstances you can't see. He's preparing people you haven't met yet. He's orchestrating moments that will leave you stunned by His goodness. Your job isn't to understand, it's to trust. To believe that the same God who parted the Red Sea can make a way where there seems to be no way. That the same God who raised Lazarus from the dead can resurrect dreams you thought were gone forever. So tonight, if your heart is heavy with disappointment, I need you to hear this. Your closed door is sacred ground. It's the place where your faith grows roots that nothing can shake. It's the moment you discover that God's plans are wilder, more beautiful, and more fulfilling than anything you could have planned for yourself. Don't waste your energy pounding on closed doors. Don't exhaust yourself trying to resurrect what God has put to rest. Instead, lift your eyes. Your Father is leading you. That path ahead, it's brighter than you dare to imagine. The love He has for you, deeper than you can comprehend. The future He's prepared, more glorious than anything you've lost. The door may be closed, but oh, dear heart, just wait until you see what God is about to open. There is a pain that cuts deeper than flesh, a wound that no bandage can cover. The agony of releasing someone you love into God's hands when every fiber of your being screams to hold on. You stand at the crossroads between your desperate longing and divine will, trembling under the weight of a question that echoes through your soul. How can something that feels so right be wrong in God's eyes? Let me speak truth to your aching heart tonight. Some loves are not meant to stay. Some relationships, no matter how beautiful, no matter how passionate, must be surrendered. Not because they weren't real, but because God is calling you to something higher. He isn't asking you to abandon love. He's inviting you to exchange temporary affection for eternal significance. Think of a soldier leaving his sweetheart behind to answer his nation's call. The love is real, the goodbye is excruciating, but the mission is greater than personal desire. In that moment of surrender, ordinary love transforms into something sacred, a sacrifice laid on the altar of purpose. Beloved, God isn't cruel to ask this of you. He's honoring you with a sacred trust, the chance to choose His kingdom over your comfort, His glory over your happiness, His eternal plan over your temporary pleasure. I think of Ruth standing at the crossroads of her life. Naomi urged her to return to Moab, to her people, her gods, the familiar comforts of her past. Everything in Ruth's flesh must have pulled her backward. But in that defining moment, she made an eternal declaration, "Where you go, I will go, and where you stay, I will stay. Your people will be my people, and your God my God." Ruth 1:16. She surrendered the love she knew for a destiny she couldn't yet see. And God honored that surrender beyond her wildest dreams. making her the great-grandmother of kings, placing her in the very lineage of Christ. Your surrender is not the end, it's the beginning of your Ruth story. That relationship you're being asked to release, God sees your tears. He knows your pain, but He also sees the redemption waiting on the other side of your obedience. He sees the lives that will be changed because you chose faithfulness over fleeting romance. He sees the eternal impact of your momentary suffering. The world will tell you to follow your heart, but Christ calls you to something radical, to crucify your desires so He can resurrect them in His perfect timing and way. This isn't about God depriving you of love. It's about Him purifying your definition of love. The world's love says, take what makes you happy. God's love says, give what makes me glorious. One leads to temporary pleasure, the other to eternal purpose. I've walked this road myself. I've knelt with tears soaking the altar, begging God to change His mind about a love I couldn't imagine living without. The no felt like death. But now, years later, I look back with stunning clarity. That death birthed my greatest spiritual awakening. That surrendered love became the seed for ministries I never planned, relationships I never dreamed possible, a depth of intimacy with Christ I wouldn't trade for 1,000 earthly romances. Perhaps tonight you're holding two lists in your hands, one with all the reasons this relationship seems right, and another with God's quiet but persistent no. The tension between them feels unbearable. But here's the miracle waiting to happen. When you finally release your grip on that first list, God will show you a third list you've never seen before. His breathtaking plan that makes both your lists look like childish scribbles in comparison. This is the sacred paradox of surrender. You think you're losing love, but you're actually making room for more love. Deeper love, purer love, love that doesn't compete with your devotion to Christ but flows from it. You're not being called to a life of loneliness, but to a life where your primary romance is with the King of Kings, and all other loves find their proper place in His shadow. Right now, in this painful moment of letting go, God is doing something profound in you. He's teaching you the language of eternal love, the kind that sacrifices without regret, trusts without seeing, and obeys without understanding. These are the lessons that shape world changers, history makers, and kingdom builders. Your surrender isn't weakening you. It's forging in you a spiritual strength that will outlast every temporary pleasure this world offers. So tonight, if your hands tremble as you prepare to release what you cherish, remember this. You're not just giving something up. You're gaining something far greater. You're stepping into the company of hero, Abraham willing to sacrifice Isaac, Esther risking her life for her people, Paul counting all as loss for Christ. Your surrender joins the eternal chorus of those who chose the cross over comfort, and in doing so, changed eternity. The road ahead may feel lonely at first, but you are never alone. The same God who asked for your surrender walks beside you, His nail-scarred hand proof that He understands sacrifice. He will not leave you empty. He will not abandon you in your obedience. He is preparing a table before you in the presence of your enemies. A feast of joy, purpose, and yes, love beyond your wildest dreams. Take a deep breath, precious heart. This isn't the end of your love story. It's the moment your ordinary romance becomes part of God's extraordinary redemption narrative. The pages ahead, they shine with a glory that will leave you breathless. Your surrender today is the prelude to His overwhelming yes tomorrow. Hold on. The best is yet to come. There is a moment in every believer's journey when God's no crashes against our dreams like a tidal wave, leaving us gasping for air, our plans scattered like driftwood on the shore. In that raw, disorienting moment, it feels like the end, like God has turned His back, like the future you envisioned has evaporated before your eyes. But what if I told you that divine denial is actually the birthplace of destiny? That God's no is never the final word. It's the sacred pause before His greatest yes explodes across your life. Let me take you back to a hillside outside Jerusalem, where a young man named David stood holding 5 smooth stones, his heart pounding as he faced a giant. Just days before, he had been the forgotten son left tending sheep while his brothers went to war. When Samuel came to anoint Israel's next king, even David's father Jesse overlooked him. 7 sons passed before the prophets, heaven knows, ringing in David's ears, until finally, God said yes. To the shepherd boy nobody noticed, those rejections weren't random. They were divine preparation. Every no David endured positioned him for the epic yes of his destiny. Your life right now is that hillside. That closed relationship door, that unanswered prayer, that dream deferred. They're not roadblocks. They're stepping stones. God isn't withholding, He's orchestrating. He's not punishing, He's preparing. That ache in your chest isn't the death of your hopes, it's the labor pains of a miracle about to be born. I think of Joseph in that dark Egyptian prison, forgotten by the cupbearer he helped. For 2 long years, heaven was silent. 2 years of wondering if God had abandoned him. 2 years of wrestling with the no that followed his desperate prayers for freedom. But in that prison, God was forging a prime minister. Those chains were actually shaping the hands that would one day save nations. When God finally said yes, it didn't just change Joseph's life, it changed history. Your prison has the same potential. That relationship God closed the door on. He's protecting you from a pharaoh's household so he can position you in a palace. The loneliness you feel tonight, it's the sacred space where God is rewiring your heart to receive love that doesn't just satisfy your emotions, but fulfills your eternal purpose. What looks like delay is actually divine timing at work. The world screams at you to chase immediate gratification, to settle for good enough love, to force doors open when God says wait. But people of destiny operate differently. They understand that God's no is the furnace that burns away the counterfeit so the genuine can shine. They know that delayed gratification isn't denial, it's divine investment. That closed door isn't a locked door, it's God saying, this isn't the right one yet. Keep walking, your palace is coming. Right now in your disappointment, God is doing His deepest work. He's teaching you to find your worth not in who wants you but in whose you are. He's showing you that human love, no matter how beautiful, can never fulfill what only divine love was meant to satisfy. Every tear you cry waters the soil where your future blessings will grow. Every night you spend on your knees in prayer is building spiritual muscles for the weight of the glory coming your way. I've walked this path myself. I've stared at closed doors with hot tears streaming down my face, screaming why, into the silence. But now, years later, I look back at those no's with stunned gratitude. That job I didn't get, it would have trapped me in a career God didn't design for me. That relationship that ended, it would have kept me from my divine assignment. Those prayers that went unanswered, they saved me from settling for less than God's breathtaking best. Your breakthrough isn't behind that closed door you're mourning, it's beyond it. God isn't just working on your future, He's working on you. Those closed doors are protection from paths that would have derailed your destiny. That no you're hearing is actually God shouting, I have something so much better, in a love language you don't yet understand. So tonight, if your heart is heavy with disappointment, lift up your eyes. Your story isn't over, it's just getting good. That no you're wrestling with, it's the setup for a testimony that will leave you breathless with God's goodness. The same God who turned water into wine, who fed thousands with a boy's lunch, who raised Lazarus from death, He's working in your life right now. Your current circumstances aren't the final chapter. They're the dramatic turning point where faith meets fulfillment. Don't you dare give up now. Don't you dare believe the lie that God has forgotten you. Your no is about to become your greatest hallelujah. The closed door is about to swing wide open to reveal blessings so abundant, so tailor-made for your calling, that you'll look back at this moment and whisper through tears, "Thank you, God, for saying no." Hold on, warrior. Your palace is coming, your redemption is near. Your no is simply God's way of saying, just wait until you see what I have in store. The best is yet to come, and it's going to be glorious beyond anything you could ask or imagine.